Classic Coke.
We're
uh,
on.
so is it? So are you done? Are we ready to move on to our next topic?
Yeah, yeah. We're
Okay.
good.
All right. So let me move on to the next one. I have two things I want to cover real quick. These should only take a few minutes each, but they're very important. And one of them is very, very interesting as far as a move in U.S. companies. And this is specifically um, banking and real estate companies. But we're going to get to this other news first. And I was telling Brandon, I was mentioning this before the show that I think the algorithms and all my how I search and research stuff is now just pulling up weight loss drugs now, thinking that this is all I look at. But I do have an article here about Novo Nordisk, and it's very interesting. It's not just about this; it has affected the other companies, specifically one I did a call on last week. But this one came out today, 9:02 a.m., written by Dina Beasley on the Reuters Newswires. The headline reads, Data on Novo Nordisk experimental weight loss drug shows mostly mild side effects. You would think that's a good thing, but let's get into the numbers. So the weight loss drug they're talking about is CagriSema. And this is, I think I'm pronouncing that right. I may not be, but it's a new weight loss drug for Novo Nordisk. The company had previously announced top line results for the 68-week study, which found that CagriSema led to nearly 23% weight loss from or obese adults, while overweight type 2 diabetes lost nearly 16% of the weight. Those results, however, disappointed investors, and there's a good reason for that, Brandon. These are phase three trials, so the next step is actually to get approved by the FDA. But in the obesity trial, 79.6% of CagriSema patients had mainly transient or mild to moderate gastrointestinal side effects such as nausea, vomiting, constipation, so on and so forth, right? So not that bad, kind of right in line where they thought.
Hmm.
Even the doctor said everything was in line with what we expected. Dr. Melanie Davis, she was the lead investigator on this. The hemoglobin or sugar levels of 6.5% or less was in the 75% of the time for CagriSema group and 15.9% in placebo group. Everything's in line. Everything was great. So why is this not good news? Well, Eli Lilly's trizepatide, it's sold under the brand name Zepbound for weight loss that's currently on the market. That works by stimulating GLP-1 along with a second gut hormone called GIP. This has shown to help obese and overweight adults lose 22% of the weight over 72 weeks. So you're already losing 22% of your weight
Oh,
over
wow.
72 weeks with a drug that's currently on the market. And that is the best one that's currently out there for individuals who are looking just for weight loss. So this new drug by Novo Nordisk is really not pushing any needles whatsoever. It's nothing that's really going to transform the industry. It's not a better improved Ozempic. It's not a better improved Zepbound or anything else along those lines. It's just another one to add to the list if you so choose, which is a good news for companies like the company I mentioned last week, Metsera, which is having tremendous results, which is, I mentioned last week, a 7.8% weight loss in just 6 weeks.
Hmm.
And so Metsera is looking to be even better and transform the industry versus Zepbound. This one from CagriSema for Novo Nordisk is not looking as no good news for Novo Nordisk. This is why I sold last year, I think it was early to mid last year, Brand. I can't remember exactly when I said I'm selling, but there was too many headwinds. They didn't have anything new coming out. They did have Ozempic. It's going to continue to provide revenue and income, but they got to come up with something new
Right.
um, in order to keep this company. You can't just be a one trick pony of a pharmaceutical brand. You got to always have a pipeline of things coming up. And right now, Novo Nordisk doesn't have anything spectacular coming out. They're staying with the weight loss, which is fine. There's always going to be a need for weight loss as of right now, so that's going to be a money maker. But they got to push it somewhere or find new ways of doing this, and they're not
See,
doing a good job of it.
we discussed this before the show, but I'll bring it up now. This is why I can't do pharmaceuticals. And you're good at it, which is awesome. And you trade, which is awesome
Right?
too.
Yes.
But the fact of the matter is there's a lot of money that's got to go into the research and development, and there's a lot of money that's got to go into getting these past the FDA and all the different tests that they have to do. And then after that, we got to make sure that it's going to bring in more profit and more revenue and growth. We need growth. This is
Yes.
Wall Street, you know?
Yes.
So unless you're going to pay a 10% dividend every year, you got to have growth.
Right. Yeah,
So
and so more bad. Here's what I say: it's more bad news for Novo Nordisk. The only good news is the CVS move that's come in July 1st, where you're going to have to, if you are currently on Zepbound and your insurance is through CVS, which affects millions of people, by the way, you're going to have to switch to Ozempic unless you could get a certain cause or reason why you need to stay on Zepbound.
right.
That's the only positive news I've seen lately for Novo Nordisk. Well, that and the fact that the compounding companies had to stop, but that's already taken place, and that should have already been built into the move up that they had because they were around $60 a share. They're up to like 80, so I believe that's already built in. The compounding is already built in. The CVS move, I believe, is already built in. I don't see much move after this. I think they stay around right where they're at.
I agree.
So. All right, let's move into the next one. And this one I said was interesting. I did not know this news. And like I said, Brandon and I are just two individuals. We don't have we're not a financial investment bank. We don't have a whole team of people that look into certain areas of finances or banking sectors or stocks. There's just two of us, right?
Yeah,
And we were busy guys. So, we have lives, and so we don't have all the time in the world to sit here and look into things. But I did find this, and I found this very interesting, so I wanted to share it. This came out literally at about 2:30 p.m. today. The headline reads: Bank of New York Mellon approached Northern Trust to discuss a potential merger. Not necessarily big news there. Bank mergers happen all the time. Bank of New York Mellon, they do handle a lot of business for companies such as employee stock purchase discounts, employee 401ks. They do a few of those, but they also specialize in real estate and real estate specifically in New York City or New York area. Northern Trust, I don't know much about Northern Trust, however. And the only reason I know this about Bank of New York Mellon is I used to trade them way back in the day. And so this is why I know what I know about Bank of New York Mellon. If you trade stocks for any length of period of time, such as long as Brandon and I have, you eventually come across companies that you've already traded before. Again, eventually they circle back around. However, let's go into this a little bit. Bank of New York Mellon has a market cap of 65.55 billion, while Northern Trust has a market cap of 21.676 billion. So the combination should make it, a decent sized company. Still not a large, by any means of a sort, a no Goldman Sachs, no JP Morgan here. But here's what I found interesting. In May, Bank of New York Mellon received a license to set up a regional headquarters in Saudi Arabia, joining other banks lured by incentives as the kingdom sets to boost its appeal as a financial hub globally. Bank of New York Mellon declined to comment, and Northern Trust also declined to comment on the merger and the fact that they're setting up their regional headquarters in Saudi Arabia. So that makes me question. And because I only found this out about 45 minutes before the show, I did not have time to research, Brandon, but I'm going to this week. How many other companies are building and putting into this regional financial hub in Saudi Arabia and building like a Wall Street, if you will, in Saudi Arabia? And how many, what kind of breaks or licenses or any kind of financial incentives are they getting? Is my question.
there's massive amounts of investment, not only from banks. I mean, Nvidia just announced, their partnership and sending a lot of chips over there and GPUs, entertainment. Uh, WWE has got a big partnership with Saudi Arabia. Um, I don't know how many people know this, but Bank of New York Mellon, that was a merger between two of the oldest banks of Wall Street. The Bank of New York was founded in 1784 by Alexander Hamilton. Mellon Financial was formed in 1869, and they both merged in 2007. Just some
Right.
interesting history there.
Yeah. So, if you watch a Hamilton musical, you know of Alexander Hamilton. Um, and so it is interesting, this merger. It's not a big merger, like I said, but it's an interesting one because Bank of New York does have a lot of real estate on their portfolio, especially specifically in New York City. So something I'm looking at, something I'm watching. All right, Brandon, it is that time of the show. It is final thoughts. Go ahead, head us with it.
Whatever happens with this war, it's likely going to be temporary. I mean, it's just a buying opportunity for me. I do think that this is, a lot of people are looking at this and saying, well, this kind of throws a wrench in the plans to lower interest rates. I'm not sure that it does. I don't know. I don't know that the Federal Reserve is going to look at this and take it into account or not. We were planning on rate decreases as early as possibly even July. I don't know that that's going to happen now. But again, this isn't a reason to sell Microsoft or Nvidia. It's just not. So whatever happens in the next week, if this market sells off, um, I think that's a buying opportunity. Nasdaq sold off around 11% the last time a major war happened. So
There you go.
yeah,
I will say that crude oil futures on Friday were at $74 a barrel. They're currently sitting at for Whitty, West Texas intermediate crude is at $76 a barrel, so $2 a barrel spike in futures. A lot less than the 5 to 10 I was saying were possible.
right.
But again, we still have overnight into Monday morning, so we could still see that 5 to 10 range. As long as it stays within that range, I'm not concerned. I believe it will come back down. Uh, so I'm not doing any investments based off of this news. I do like. I don't believe any of my investments that I currently own are going to be hurt based off this news either. So I'm just, it's not changing anything I do currently.
Sure.
I will say cryptos are dropping right now. And the only reason I bring those up is, it's a way to track movements over the weekend because they're traded 24/7. And so it's a way to see if there is any kind of movement we can expect. You could look at cryptos, kind of get a forewarning that Bitcoin has dropped down to like 98,000 a coin right now, but you know, who knows.
So that probably says what's going to happen to the Nasdaq tomorrow.
Right. And that's the correlation that we're looking for. So, all right. Well, as always, we hope that we have been entertaining, educational, and uplifting because we want everyone to make money. Have a good night.
Have a good night.